Good morning, friends. Today start Salesforce Apex interview questions. Very important questions uh, in Salesforce Apex job profiles and helpful questions in interview. So today start questions. What is the Apex? Apex is an object-oriented and strongly type of computer's programming language that is enables developers to implement flow and the transactions control statement on all the Salesforce servicing collections with calls to the API. It is use syntax that is looked like that of Java and work like the database store process. Apex help the developers to implement the business logic with most of the system event together with the tabs, clicks, related records updated as well as Visualforce page. Next questions. What is the Apex scheduler? Apex scheduler is a features that is used to the invoke the Apex classes to help them run at explicit time. First, execute the schedule assembles for the class, then state the schedule by utilizing either the schedule's Apex page or the system. Next questions. Give an example of implicit and explicit invocations of Apex. Implicit triggers, explicit JavaScript remoting. Next, what is an abstract class? Abstract classes in the Salesforce Apex are the classes that is a com, comprise on dynamic the strategy at least of the conjectual technique is an approach that is a market thought the content no use whatever. Next question, what is the schedule class in Apex? The Apex class is the class which is a plan to the run at a some predefined instructions of the programming classes at a scheduler class must necessary execute of the schedules crossing point and it is a should also certain the methods name and execute. Next question, name of five aggr- aggregate function that are supported by the Salesforce SQL Apex. Following the aggregate, the function are supported by the Salesforce SQL's sum, maximum, minimum, count, and average. Next questions. What do you think is the difference between the standard and custom object? Custom controller. The custom controller is a Salesforce Apex programming is auto guaranteed by the Salesforce Silo for all. It is object, whereas custom controller as a control commands that are the returns by the developers and they do what the course was written by the developers tell them to do. Next questions. Elu elucidate the difference between the adjobs and actions followers. Actions followers is the shock clock in Apex that is enables an Ajax refresh demand to be sent the server as a instructed by parent the intern that the developers determines. Next questions. How can you the refer to current page ID in Apex? In case you wish to the retrieve or refer to the required ID in the Visualforce page, then in the case you can easily refer to the utilize or standard controllers. Next questions. What do you mean by page reference? Page reference is Apex environment is reference which is made to an installations of the specific page and among the servers the different the chatterize that is a process that is must noteworthy once our page reference that comprise URL and plan of the equations, parameters of the server, the name and the qualities. Next question is describe app in the Salesforce. An app is collections of tabs that work together to give functionality. The first app drop the down menu in the top right the corner of every page allow user to the move between the app. You can tailor current app to your the needs or create new one by the combine standard and custom tabs. In order to develop in app is a Salesforce. Follow this step: setup, build, create app, and click on new and create the application based on your the needs. Next questions: what exactly is a custom object in the Salesforce? Custom objects are the database tables in the Salesforce that allow you to the store data relevant to your the organization. Custom object can be the used to the enhance Salesforce functionality to or create the new application that capability to the enables your the users to engage with the data after creating custom object. You can add the custom tab related list, report, and dashboards. You can also get information about customized object using the force and API. In order the word on the object is a Salesforce. Follow this step: setup, build, create the object, click on the new object, and create object based on your the needs. Next questions: in Salesforce, what is the distinctions between data and metadata? Data, the records on which the business depend, such as account, contact, users, metadata. Data that is defined out of the data and data about the is metadata. It is related to the feeds, code, configurations, page layout, and logic that is go to the creating the Salesforce environment appearance. Next questions: what is exactly is a look up the relationship? You can the create the parent child schema by relating the records to the one of another's using the lookup relationship. This is a usually accused between the virus object like the account and contact, but is can also the count accurate the between just one of the items like the parents account and relationship feeds add in the reporting by the allowing users to the specify how to records related to the one another's. Next questions: what exactly is a profiles? Profiles and roles work together to define which records user the may see, and do wish with profile are the always required the sense they given which object and the feeds users how act across to they also the decide whether users have a ability to the create, amend or delete the records. Next question: what is exactly is roles? Although roles strictly the optionals that they are recommend, roles are the primary concern with sharing records with users when the organization will by default sharing for the object set up less than public read right. You can the utilize the rules in sharing rules to the specify which records and the whether they are it is read only for read write. Users can view role have a hierarchy similar and the organization's chart, so that is sharing can instant by and that the data that users required. Next questions: what exactly is a permission set? Permission set is a profiles at once. They all have some parameters and are used to the give the users and more the permission that can be profile allow they have a advantage of the allowing you can grant the peoples and somewhat different across without having the create distinct profiles. In the approach they cut administrative and overhead profile are the function set of the permission that many peoples that, whereas the permission set are the extra permission that can the fewer the individual the requires. Next questions, describe Apex email service. Email service can be the used to the process the body, header and attachment of receive the emails. You cloud create an email server for the enhance that create the contact and records from the message and contact the information. Next questions, how many to many relationship in established. Lookup and master details are the linked one to many times. We can the construct and many to many relationship using the junction object and unique object with two master details is a referred to as a junction object. Next questions, what exactly is public groups? Public groups are the allowing the roles will permission set and allow to the profiles and admin can contract and add of groups of the user's name, individual or by the roles to whom document can be the share the accounting and director. A popular the use case is to share the second width of the users at a similar level bounds because director are likely the disparate of the thought out the organization they have it will unlikely each other in the role hierarchy. Next questions, what are the some enhance of the custom fields types? Text selection is a selection pick list selection list, pick list, multiplayer selection, date time, currency, checkbox, number, percentage, phone, URL, text area, geolocations, and look up the relationship master details relationship. Next question, what is exactly is a quiz? Quiz like the public group and group are the custom grouping of people that designing the individuals or view the roles, but they are the use for the records ownership rather than sharing roles. The must of common the application for case where you can want to the assign and open on to a group individual so that however was available first may be handled it is a fit are not the available on the all standard object but where the added to the task in the spring 20 it is. Next questions, what exactly is a pass is a acronym that is a stand for the platform as a service. This type of the service include the development platform with all type of the applications and pre-configures. You will subscribe to the required to the right and run all of your the codes in the remote server with the some technique. Next questions, define the roll-up summary. Roll-up summary is used to determine the sum maximum and minimum of chat records as well as to display that is count of the chats records. Next questions, describe the audit trail. The information of the audit trail track every event, recent configurations, modifications made by the organization by the admin. It is keep data from the last 6 months. Next questions, OWD. What is the OWD? It is outline the fundamental amount of the access that is each user in the organization has to the data records. Restriction access to the data is a beneficial. They are controlled by the parents, private and public read, write and transfer, and the public read only. Next question, what exactly is SaaS? SaaS stand for the Salesforce, software as a service. It is a provide the greatest support and it is a must use friendly of all the delivery option. It is likely that you already utilize in the workplace. This is a highest level of service, which include the everything from the hardware to the software to the pre-built app. Next questions. What does Salesforce JavaScript remoting the main? JavaScript remoting can be used to front end of the developers to send out the Ajax request from the Visualforce page and string to the Apex controller by the scripting the page from the controller and the enabling JavaScript does remoting. You may carry out of operation on the page without having a reload. It is old. Next question says us how many type of the triggers are there. There are mainly two type of the triggers in Salesforce. Before triggers period, the updating the verifying the records value before being the saved to the database triggers and employed. Next, and after triggers, they are the used to access system, define the fields value of each such records ID, and last modify date and fields, and to the impact modification in other records. Next questions. What exactly are sharing rules? In Salesforce, sharing rules are used to automatically establish expectations to the organization-wide default setting for the users who do not one of the records. They should apply to the object whose org by default are set of the public read only, private because sharing rules can only extra the access allowed by the organization wide default and cannot restrict it. Salesforce two type of the sharing rules and determine which records are the share criteria based and honor based. Next questions. What is the wrapper the class used in Salesforce? Class data structure or abstract data type whose enhance are collections of other object in now as a wrapper or container class. It is a custom object that Salesforce developers has defined, and in it the properties are listed. Next, what does Salesforce transitory keywords mean? In Apex class can be strings such as a controller, the extensions or classes that is a support, the variables or the schedulable interface. The consent keywords is a use view static size is a decrease when the variable are declared as a string transitory. Next question, what is the triggers? A triggers is a piece of code that runs both period to and following the instructions of data or deletions on of records in the force.com and database. Next questions. In production the environment, how to can you edit Apex classes? Avoid the editing the Apex classes directly production in Salesforce. Instead, create the change in the sandbox properly, text then use development technology such as a change set of the metadata API, migrate them to the production safety. This is a contribute to the scalability and lowers the possibility of the introducing issue in the live environment. Next questions. What is exactly is a SDLS? Salesforce Lightning the designing the system. SDLS is the user interface designing the framework that is the Salesforce used to designing style and context all of the compounds of the Salesforce Lightning. Developers we may to CSS style of the compounds and mark up the template given the SLDS to the create the bespoke compounds that have a consent UI without the rest of the platform. SLDS also assembly language guidelines and the symbol guidelines. Next questions. What is the distinction triggers new from the triggers old? Triggers a list of new versions of the object records and triggers is a returns by the new old is provide list of the old object records versions. Next, can the callout by made from the triggers? We can, yes, it is a some and invoking the class methods from the triggers. Normally, the methods should always synchronize with of the features which is the only distinction. Next questions. What this is the recursive actions. If you are the triggers, use the same DML statement and some DML conditions in the triggers firing condition on of the same object. One which of the triggers was written and requisitions will be happens. Next questions. What are the triggers for the bulky firing? Every triggers is a bulk triggers by the default, which allow for the batches processing of the numbers records at once for each 20 records batch. Next questions. What is what is to futures triggers methods and survey? We may turn the triggers into the asynchronous class and implies the call out the methods by using the feature attentions. Next question, how many require the triggers to be the avoid to prevent of the enables loop in Apex classes used to static the variable locus to the contents of the web request all static the variables. Next questions, how many triggers can we specify for the given the object? Although is a possible with writing the more than one triggers, it is a not advice using the one triggers one of the object in best practice. Next questions, define the what ID and whole ID activity. Whole ID used to the leads ID or contacts ID is a activities and utilized for the people's things. Next questions, what are the Apex transaction protections? Batch Apex task executions is seen as a direct the transactions every times across. For instance, batches Apex takes execute and without the database optionals scope parameters that is 1000 records. Therefore, the transactions each of 20 records in the execute batch each transactions result rest of the Apex corner limitations. The database alterations made in the first transactions are not the unknown of the transactions success, but is a second phase. Next question, what is the batch Apex survey? We we many process the records in the batch and synchronize by the utilizing the batch Apex classes. Describe the database and batchables user interface. Using the batch Apex job, the class implement this is the interface can be runs. Next, define the batchables interface methods. Batch launch of the global database execute global wide the execute database batchables and context list of the query locators start database batchables and context and finish database batchables the context the finish of the global wides. Next questions, what are the exactly the database and query line locations? The governor limits that is a total the number of the records returns by the SQL such variables. If we have a database query that query locators automated the 50,000 records, it is a support 15 million records art at most. Next question, how can we share the manually? Users can share the records with other by the clicking the manual sharings button. We explicitly get into the situation when the individual users want to share the records with the different users. The best choice in the situation is a manual sharings. Next questions, what are the some uses of our Apex? The version application of Apex can be used to the build service like events, schedule, triggers it, as well as web the service, that is a integrate versions system and the service. They can also be used to the perform the validation of the virus schema object using the specialized. Next questions, define the Apex syntax. Example of the many element of Apex syntax is a variable, the declaration of this for the storing variable from the memories. The queries will be the executed using the SQLs, and which will be also being used to execute loop statement to perform the interactions of the operations flow and control statement to the control the flow executions by stopping the executions process, and DML statement to manipulate is the data. Next questions, what are the security features does Apex offers? Do secure an application features and does and code when the sharing data and running the codes. Apex impose server the security controls. It is also the required to the enforce and virus security measure and level the of security. Next questions, can we the invoke the batch Apex and from the another batch? Batch Apex can be the call from the another batch Apex. Yes, you can call another batch is either the start methods of the finish methods. Next questions, what is the Apex? Is the SQLs. In into these advanced Apex into the questions where the ask we have when used with of the Salesforce database SQLs and now the Salesforce object query language and created as executed lookup the what the parents object and child's object linked by the external lookup the connections custom standard external object maybe child's object. It is a make use to determine the program proper mapping between the child's object and the external parents object feeds value from the external lookup the relationship and compiles the external the ID value and describe the soft. It is a set of the guideline from the sending the SML encoded data, that is a standard of the sample object access protocol, the observations. Next questions, database allow you call out what do it is do. You must specify the database with will using the callout is base Apex is the class definition the allow the callout the class and is enhance search and replace the element of the database global class and database the batches of the object yes object allow pull out the by implementing the batches interface and the methods you can implement the business logic you can STP and request and the methods will be the web service keywords are the both consider and followed. Next question is count Apex jobs object. What is it? Single Apex is sharing the calculations of the job and represented by the astronaut's Apex jobs object to the search for the Apex job batch job in the company. Use this object when is a records for the batch Apex worker is created. Apex governors and extra astronauts Apex jobs and records of the Apex batch Apex the worker for the internal use for the every 10,000 astronauts Apex jobs and records. Next questions, workflow. What is it? Based on the evaluations of criteria, rules and criteria and the path of the automated the process and launched and the access custom and workflow and approve the process and startup. Static the resource what are they? Visualforce page implies the static resource. Upload the string like the photo and zip files and jar files and JavaScript and the SQLs. Visualforce page implies the static the resource and upload the things and photos, zip files and files and JavaScript. Next questions. Can I classify the triggers is the change of the change in the productive environment? No, we are the enabled to the alter the class or the triggers in the productions, although we can modify Visualforce page in the production, that is page, and log the controllers. Thank you, friends. Please my channels like and share. Thank you so much. Bye bye.